Let's just jump right back in, shall we? After killing Sanoth, the group cuts off his head as evidence and heads back to the capital, leaving the Chosen One and his friends to do as they please. Once they arrive, Alzahar decides to share with the group that he needs to rob a house. Apparently that was a task he was given by the Unseen Hand before they left to kill the bandits. The target is a book of poems that belongs to a noble named Sir Francis Ferdinand. Upon obtaining this book, Alzahar will be reinstated into the Unseen Hand and successfully infiltrate their ranks on behalf of the church. As the group figures out the details, we buy some paint to disguise our newly stolen cart. Red ends up painting it black and red with horrible stick figure art and skulls. They finish painting in the middle of the night and go back to the inn. Alzahar decides to confront Red about the Unseen Hand again, since earlier she seemed to recognize the curse on his hand. Red reacts by screaming, "Are they here?" and plowing over Torak as she runs out of the inn. Alzahar eventually catches up to her and slaps her back to her senses. Red has no memory of this, though, and they end up going to bed for the night. In the morning, Logan, who is sharing a room with Alzahar, appears stunned and broods the whole time Alzahar completes his morning ritual. Eventually, the Paladin asks him what's wrong, to which Logan simply explains that he had an odd dream where Torak showed up at a picnic with him and his missing wife. Alzahar ends up telling the guy off, explaining that he needs to stay focused on their current goals and not get so easily distracted by something as silly as a dream. They then go down to the tavern and hear about an upcoming tournament where the winners will be invited to Ferdinand's house to hear him read from his book of poetry. They'll also be given tokens to order fine clothes to attend the party. Alzahar decides to head out to tell the others about this tournament, only to hear a goblin in the distance. He follows the sounds to the circus where he spots Goblin Jim in a cage, doing his savage goblin act for the kids. Alzahar's racist mode activates and he dives for the goblin, only to be stopped by the guards as Torak arrives and turns Jim invisible to help him escape. Alzahar is taken into interrogation with Red and is accused of inciting panic. The Paladin then flashes his symbol of cord, saying he was doing what was right, but then the guard also flashes a symbol of cord and calls his bluff. Alzahar then uses the command spell to make Red sit. Eventually, they're released with a warning and Alzahar decides to go drinking, still confused as to why the city treats a goblin like a citizen. While this happens, Torak takes Sanoth's head to the guild to get fully initiated, but the guild doesn't have a reward for Sanoth. So, not knowing what else to do with the head, he takes it out onto the steps and uses minor illusions to puppeteer it into talking to the passing crowds, earning him a few silver for his ventriloquism act. When the party regroups, Torak tells them that they won't be paid for Sanoth's head, so Red decides to go into a rage and stomps her way to the guild. Alzahar, still frazzled from being arrested earlier, follows suit, and Torak tags far behind. He figures if they get arrested, he'll be far enough behind to say he's not associated with them, but if they somehow do get money from this, he'll join in just to get some for himself. Back at the guild, Red is arguing with the receptionist, explaining how difficult it was to kill Sanoth. Then she goes from exaggerating to flat out lying about how things went. She goes on about how Sanoth grew to the size of a mountain, wore a necklace made of baby femurs, and commanded a legion of hundreds of bandits. A crowd starts to gather as she tells her tale, and Torak decides to enhance her story by adding some magical sound effects and lighting. He made cracks of thunder and bellowed in a loud and demonic voice whenever she mentioned Sanoth's attack, and Alzahar joined in by incinerating a table at a particularly exciting moment. She included about a dozen other fake party members that supposedly came with us and claims they all died in the battle, leaving just the three of us alive. The way she described our battle, the entire group basically sounded like gods, what with Torak opening massive chasms, Alzahar calling forth the sky itself, and Red punching hard enough to blast holes into reality. She tells the group that the battle drained us of all of our otherworldly powers, though, and says that we're nothing more than mortals now. She did mention Thanos, the Chosen One, eventually landing the final blow, and Alzahar quickly took credit for that, now going by the alter ego of Thor. Throughout this whole story, we were rolling really high, so most of the crowd believed this ridiculous tale and demanded that the guild pay us for our troubles and immediately move up to gold rank, but the receptionist still said no. Her reasoning being that we just admitted to no longer being as powerful as we were during the battle, so we're no longer worthy of gold rank. The crowd takes pity on us and decides to toss us gold to thank us for saving the world. Torak, of course, grabs his share and they head out. Alzahar tells the group we need to stop at a few places to prepare for the heist, and we go to a clothing shop where a dark elf shows interest in Ferdinand's book of poetry. We place our orders for the party clothes and decide to ask Tom at the magic shop about any magical means to duplicate the book. That way, Alzahar could get initiated and we could get paid selling the duplicate to the dark elf at the clothing shop. When we ask Tom about duplication spells, he naturally asks us what we need it for. Alzahar clears his throat, prepared to spin some sort of tale to answer the question, but Red and Torak answer immediately. To steal a book.